The galaxy had seen many ships, massive fleets, battle-hardened warships, and powerful destroyers, but none had ever been as mysterious as the small, unassuming vessel now entering galactic space. It was not like the sleek, advanced ships that many civilizations used. In fact, it looked out of place, almost primitive. But it was flying toward the heart of the galaxy with a speed and precision that caught the attention of the largest military forces in the universe. The crew aboard the warship were humans, just a few dozen men and women. They wore simple uniforms, their expressions focused and determined. Captain Sarah Johnson stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the galaxy's star charts, calculating the exact coordinates. They had been traveling for days, moving silently through the galaxy, careful not to alert the major powers. The human warship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Though the ship's appearance was deceptively simple, its weapons, shield systems, and technology were centuries ahead of what the alien civilizations could even begin to understand. But it wasn't just the ship's weapons that made it dangerous. It was the humans' resolve. They had no intention of negotiating, no intention of bowing to any alien empire. They had come for one thing: to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. The first civilization to notice the strange ship's approach was the Exric, a highly advanced, militaristic species known for their brutal tactics and widespread control over several sectors of the galaxy. Their leaders were quick to dismiss the human vessel as insignificant. Another primitive ship, they sneered, ignoring the warnings that it might be more dangerous than they thought. In the Exric war room, the generals and commanders laughed. A few humans in an old warship. They couldn't possibly be a threat to us. The Exric were accustomed to crushing any small civilization that dared enter their territory. Their arrogance was their greatest weakness, and they didn't even know it. The galaxy, at this point, was far too busy with its own political games. Wars were being waged, alliances forged and broken, and countless factions were preparing for their own battles. No one could imagine that a single human ship, seemingly insignificant, could change everything. But they were about to find out the hard way. The human warship moved silently through space, heading toward its first target, an isolated planet in the Exric-controlled sector. The crew aboard the ship knew exactly what to do. Captain Sarah's voice echoed through the command center. "Prepare for the strike. We're making a statement." It wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about making sure the galaxy knew that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the human ship moved closer to its target, the quiet of space was broken by the first blinding flash of light. The Exric would soon understand their mistake. The galaxy, too, would soon realize that underestimating humanity's warship was the greatest mistake they could ever make. The humans were no longer the underdogs. And soon, the galaxy would know that. Captain Sarah Johnson stood in front of the communication panel, her fingers tapping nervously on the console. She knew what was coming. The time had come to send a message to the galaxy, a message that would change everything. She glanced at the crew around her, all of them focused, waiting for her command. "Send it," she said quietly, her voice steady but firm. The message was short, to the point. It was a warning, though she knew no one would listen. "We are humans. Our warship is unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Do not underestimate us." The transmission was sent, and Sarah leaned back in her chair, eyes scanning the vast expanse of space before her. They were alone out here. Alone, but not unprepared. The ship had been designed for a purpose, and now that purpose was becoming clear to the rest of the galaxy. Back on the alien homeworld of the Exric, the message was received. It flickered on the screen in their command room, its simplicity almost laughable to the council that sat in front of it. The Exric were used to facing threats, large, dangerous, and sophisticated enemies. A single human vessel. It seemed absurd. General Zarnak, the commander of the Exric military, was the first to speak, his voice filled with disdain. "Is this a joke?" he growled. "A human ship is threatening us." One of the officers nodded nervously, but Zarnak waved them off. Send a response. Tell them we're not interested in their little games. If they think they can challenge the Exric, they are gravely mistaken. The message they sent back was even more dismissive. Your vessel is insignificant. Turn back, or face the consequences. The Exric will not tolerate insolence. The Council's laughter echoed through the room. They didn't fear humans. They had faced down entire civilizations, and none had ever come close to matching the Exric's power. A small warship from an unknown planet couldn't possibly pose any real threat. But Sarah knew better. She wasn't worried about the Exric response. In fact, she was counting on their arrogance. It would make her job easier. The warship had been designed for moments like this. It had been built to strike fear into the hearts of anyone who dared underestimate humanity. The communication panel blinked again, this time with a message from an unexpected source. The Galactic Council. A hologram of the Council President appeared before Sarah. He looked serious, his expression showing concern. Captain Johnson, we've received your message. We understand the importance of your warship, but please consider the consequences. If you provoke the Exric, it could lead to a war. Sarah met the hologram's gaze, unwavering. The Exric have already chosen war, she replied. And if they believe they can stand against us, they will learn just how wrong they are. With that, she ended the transmission. There was no turning back now. The first battle had already begun, and the galaxy's ignorance of humanity's power would be their downfall. As the warship moved closer to its first target, Sarah could feel the tension in the air. The warning had been sent. The message had been delivered, but she knew that the galaxy would only realize the truth when it was too late. Humanity's warship was no longer just a symbol of strength. It was a promise that the galaxy would never forget. The human warship loomed in the distance, its dark silhouette cutting through the void of space. It was like a shadow of destruction, moving silently and steadily toward its target. Captain Sarah Johnson stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the screen ahead. She could feel the weight of what was about to happen. The first strike. In the cockpit, the crew moved quickly, their hands steady as they worked the controls. No one spoke much. They didn't need to. They all knew their mission, and they knew the power of the warship they commanded. The target, an isolated Exric stronghold on a distant planet, a place that had been untouched by other forces for years, secure in its arrogance. The Exric had no reason to fear a single human ship. They had mocked the warning. Now, they were about to feel the consequences. "Captain, we're in range," one of the officers reported, his voice calm but filled with anticipation. Sarah nodded, her expression focused. "Activate all weapons systems. Prepare for immediate deployment." The ship's engines hummed as the warship locked onto its target. From the outside, it appeared as though nothing was happening, just the calm and the black of space. But on board, the crew was ready. The warship wasn't just a ship. It was a weapon built with human ingenuity and the resolve of those who had survived on Earth's toughest battlegrounds. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Sarah's voice was calm, yet there was a sharpness to it. The countdown felt like an eternity. The ship's main cannon unleashed its first blast, a beam of energy so powerful that it lit up the dark sky like a star-going supernova. The Exric stronghold was hit before anyone could react. The shockwave from the explosion sent a ripple through space, distorting the very fabric of reality itself for a split second. On the planet's surface, chaos erupted. Buildings collapsed. Fires raged, and the Exric forces scrambled to respond. But they were too late. The warship had already made its mark. Within moments, the once proud stronghold was reduced to rubble, its defenses obliterated in an instant. Sarah watched the destruction unfold on the screen. There was no joy in her eyes, no sense of triumph. This was not about proving anything to the Exric. It was about making a statement to the galaxy. The human warship wasn't just another fleet. It was a force that could take down anything in its path with precision and power. And this was only the beginning. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the X-Rig," the officer said, breaking the silence. His voice was shaky. "They're demanding we stand down and leave their space immediately." Sarah's lips curled into a faint smile. "Tell them we'll be leaving once they understand who holds the power now." The transmission was cut off, but the message was clear. The galaxy would soon realize that humanity was not here to negotiate. The X-Rig were not the only ones who could dominate. As the warship turned away from the burning remains of the stronghold, Sarah's mind was already on the next move. This was only the first step in humanity's grand plan. The rest of the galaxy would soon be forced to face the truth. Humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. The show of force had only just begun, and the X-Rig had learned their lesson the hard way. The galaxy would soon learn that humans didn't negotiate. They dominated. The galaxy was beginning to take notice. The news of the human warship's devastating attack on the X-Rig stronghold spread like wildfire, reaching the ears of every major power. At first, many had dismissed it as a fluke, a single battle that wouldn't change the balance of power. But as the warship continued its path, leaving destruction in its wake, the galaxy slowly realized the truth. They had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. Back on board the human warship, Captain Sarah Johnson remained as calm and collected as ever. Her mission was far from over. One strike was only the beginning. Now it was time to prove that humanity's strength went beyond just their weapons. This warship was a message, a statement that would echo throughout the galaxy. Humanity was not to be feared merely for their firepower. They had a strategy, a mind for warfare that could outsmart even the most advanced alien empires. Sarah stood in the command center, her fingers moving swiftly over the controls. The ship's holographic map displayed a galaxy of targets, all carefully chosen for their strategic value. She wasn't just thinking about destroying enemy strongholds. She was thinking about how to disrupt the very foundations of galactic power. It wasn't enough to beat the X-Rig. She wanted to make sure no one would forget what happened to them. "Captain, we've detected several enemy communication systems," one of the officers said, his voice filled with urgency. "It looks like they're trying to coordinate a response." Sarah nodded, her eyes narrowing. The X-Rig were clearly panicking. They thought they could form a counteroffensive, but their systems were fragmented. They weren't prepared to deal with the precision and power of humanity's warship. It wasn't just brute force that made this ship a threat. It was the ability to strike anywhere, at any time, without warning. "Target their communication hubs," Sarah ordered, her voice steady. "We'll shut down their ability to coordinate. If they can't talk to each other, they can't fight back." Within moments, the warship launched a series of pinpoint strikes, each one disabling an enemy communication hub. The X-Rig military forces were left scrambling, unable to organize a proper defense. The chaos among their ranks was palpable. Without communication, they were just a disorganized mess of soldiers, unable to respond to the precise, coordinated attacks of the human warship. As the warship moved on, Sarah knew it was time to send another message. She ordered the crew to prepare for a broadcast to the Galactic Council. It was a bold move, but it was necessary. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity was not here to negotiate. They were here to dominate. The transmission began, and Sarah's voice echoed across the galaxy. "This is Captain Sarah Johnson of the human warship. To all galactic powers, you are witnessing the power of humanity. We will not ask for your permission, and we will not beg for your approval. We will take what is ours, and you will either accept our rule or face the consequences." Her words sent a shockwave through the galaxy. The X-Rig, the Zolfar, and every other major power listened as the human warship continued its march. The game had changed. No longer were humans the small, weak species hidden on the fringes of the galaxy. They were the ones in control now, and everyone would have to adjust. Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity didn't just fight. They played the game better than anyone else. The warship wasn't just a weapon. It was part of a grand plan that would reshape the galaxy's future. Across the galaxy, the news of the human warship's power had spread like wildfire. The once confident and arrogant alien empires, who had mocked humanity as weak and insignificant, now found themselves questioning everything they knew. The Exric had already fallen victim to the warship's incredible might, and the shockwaves of that attack rippled through every corner of the galaxy. The Galactic Council was the first to respond. For years, they had maintained a delicate balance of power, with numerous species constantly vying for control of the galaxy. But the arrival of the human warship had shaken that balance to its core. The Council, made up of leaders from various powerful civilizations, had no idea what to do. They had never faced a force like this before. At the Council's headquarters, alien leaders gathered in a large, sterile meeting room. The atmosphere was tense. The leaders of the Zolfar, the Jorna, and the Threx, the most powerful species in the galaxy, sat around a massive circular table, each of them visibly troubled. "Did we not warn them?" said a Zolfar leader, his voice filled with frustration. "The humans were nothing to fear. Now they've destroyed a major Exric stronghold, and we are left scrambling for answers." Another leader, a Jorna general, slammed his fist on the table. "We should have acted sooner. Now the humans are showing their strength, and the rest of the galaxy will see them as the new power. We need to act, or they will dominate us all." The Threx representative, a towering alien with armored plating, spoke with a deep, rumbling voice. "The humans' warship is a threat we didn't anticipate. We must form an alliance and retaliate. If we don't, we risk losing our control over this galaxy." The council was split. Some leaders wanted to strike back immediately, while others called for caution. It was clear that no one knew how to handle the human threat. Captain Sarah Johnson's message to the galaxy had been heard by everyone, and now the galaxy's most powerful leaders were scrambling to figure out what to do next. Back aboard the human warship, Sarah sat in her command center, eyes scanning the latest reports. Her crew was silent, all of them aware that their every move would be watched by the galaxy. The warship had already made its mark, and now humanity had to decide what came next. "We've got responses from every major power," one of the officers said. "The Galactic Council is in disarray. They're trying to form alliances against us." Sarah smiled slightly. "Let them form alliances. It will only delay the inevitable. The galaxy can't stop what's coming." Her eyes flicked to the screen in front of her, where a map of the galaxy was displayed. Dozens of potential targets blinked on the screen, each one carefully chosen for its strategic value. She wasn't just thinking about defeating one species. Sarah was thinking on a larger scale. She was ready to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. "We'll keep pushing forward," Sarah continued. "The galaxy may be responding, but it's too late. They've already underestimated us, and that's something they'll never recover from." The human warship continued its march. The Exric had learned their lesson the hard way, and now the galaxy would learn the same. Humanity was no longer a small, insignificant species. They were a force that would shape the future of the galaxy, whether the rest of the galaxy liked it or not. The response from the galaxy had come, but it was too little, too late. The human warship drifted silently through the blackness of space, heading toward its next target. The crew aboard the ship was calm, despite the high tension. They knew what was coming. They had made their mark with the Exric, and now it was time to show the rest of the galaxy what humanity was capable of. The ship's next objective, a large, well-defended fleet from the Threx, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Captain Sarah Johnson stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the tactical screen. Her hands were steady as she gave orders to her crew, each one moving swiftly and without hesitation. The warship was designed for precision, and that's exactly what they intended to deliver. No more waiting. It was time to strike. "Captain, the Threx fleet has been spotted in Sector 7, an officer reported. They're moving toward a nearby planet. Estimated time of engagement, 2 hours. Sarah nodded, her mind already calculating the next move. The Threx had the numbers and firepower, but they lacked the strategic flexibility that humanity's warship possessed. Prepare to engage. We'll intercept them before they reach the planet. No mercy. As the warship entered the sector, the Threx fleet's leader, General Korek, watched the sensors with growing unease. He had heard the rumors, of course, about the human warship, but like most others, he dismissed them as exaggerations. Humans, after all, were supposed to be weak. Now, as the small warship appeared on his radar, he felt the weight of the mistake they had all made. "Ready all weapons," Korek barked, his voice booming through the command room. "We will crush them before they can get any closer." The Threx fleet was a formidable sight. Massive warships with advanced weapon systems, easily able to wipe out entire civilizations. They had faced countless enemies before, and each time they had emerged victorious. But today, they would face something different. The human warship was unlike anything they had ever encountered. As the two fleets closed in on each other, Sarah's voice broke through the tense silence aboard the human ship. "Fire all weapons on my mark." The crew moved swiftly, their training kicking in. The warship's cannons powered up, ready to unleash their destructive force. Sarah took a deep breath, her voice calm but firm as she gave the command. Fire. The first blast from the human warship tore through the void, a brilliant beam of energy that struck the Lid Threx ship. The impact was immediate and devastating. The Threx ship shattered in an instant, its shield systems unable to withstand the power of the human weapon. The Threx fleet reacted, launching their own counterattacks, but they were too slow. Humanity's warship moved with unmatched agility, dodging incoming fire and launching precision strikes that crippled the Threx ships one by one. The Threx tried to regroup, but their communication systems were down. They had no way of coordinating their response. Chaos broke out among their ranks, and the human warship picked them off with cold efficiency. General Korek watched in horror as his fleet crumbled before him. "This cannot be happening," he muttered under his breath, unable to comprehend how a single ship could cause such destruction. But it was happening. The warship was unstoppable, its crew flawless in their execution. With each strike, the Threx fleet weakened, and soon, the remaining ships began to retreat, their morale shattered. As the last Threx ship flowed into hyperspace, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. This battle, like the one before it, had been a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was not just a force to be reckoned with. They were the ones who would define the future. The warship turned away from the wreckage of the Threx fleet, its mission complete. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. More battles would come, more challenges would arise. But with each victory, humanity's power and influence would grow. And the galaxy would soon understand that no one, no matter how powerful, could stand against the might of humanity's warship. The galaxy was in turmoil. What had once seemed like a distant, insignificant threat was now a full-fledged nightmare for the most powerful empires in the universe. The human warship, seemingly alone in its power, had torn through the might of the Exric and the Threx, leaving destruction in its wake. Each attack sent a shockwave through galactic society, shaking the confidence of the established powers. The balance of power had shifted, and now no one was certain what would come next. Captain Sarah Johnson stood in the command center of the warship, watching the galaxy map flicker on the screen. The warship had been victorious in its battles, but there was still much more to do. She knew that their mission was far from over. She had no illusions about the galaxy's response. They would come after them, sooner or later. The human warship had already made an impact. But there was a cost that Sarah hadn't fully prepared for. "They're regrouping," one of the officers said, breaking her thoughts. "The other empires are making alliances. The Zolfar, the Jorna, and even the small factions are coming together to take us down." Sarah nodded, her face hardening. "Let them come. It only proves they know we're a threat. They're not ready for what's coming next." Even as she spoke with confidence, Sarah knew that the warship, for all its power, was not invincible. The galaxy's strongest fleets were combining their forces, hoping to match the raw might of humanity's technology and strategy. But there was one thing they hadn't considered. Humanity wasn't just powerful, it was clever. The human warship wasn't just built for destruction, it was built for survival. And that survival would be put to the test. "We've received a transmission from the Galactic Council," the officer added. "They want to negotiate a ceasefire. They're offering terms of peace." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "What terms?" "They're offering a seat at the council. They want to control humanity's influence, but they want to avoid war." A cold smile spread across Sarah's face. "Negotiations. They think they can buy us off with a seat at their table. They've clearly forgotten that humanity doesn't ask for permission. We don't negotiate for peace. We make peace on our own terms." Her crew remained silent, fully aware of what she was about to do. The Galactic Council may have been offering peace, but peace on their terms wasn't something Sarah was willing to accept. It was time to show the galaxy that humanity didn't need anyone's approval. They would take control, and no one could stop them. "We'll continue with our mission," Sarah said firmly. "We won't stop until the galaxy understands who truly holds the power. The peace they offer is a lie. They only want to keep their control. But humanity will no longer bow to them." The crew nodded in agreement, each of them knowing that the stakes were higher than ever before. The next move would be crucial. The galaxy was coming together to try and stop humanity, but Sarah and her crew were ready. They had proven their strength, and they would prove it again. But this time, it wouldn't just be about defeating another fleet. It would be about showing the galaxy that humanity was not just a force to be reckoned with. It was the future. As the warship moved deeper into uncharted space, Sarah's thoughts were clear. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now it would pay the price. There would be no turning back. No more alliances. No more negotiations. This was humanity's galaxy now, and everyone else would have to accept that reality. The stars flickered in the distance as the human warship silently drifted through space. The ship had become an unstoppable force, leaving its mark on the galaxy one planet at a time. The once mighty empires had been forced to confront the undeniable truth. Humanity was no longer a small, unimportant species on the edge of the galaxy. The warship had proven that beyond any shadow of a doubt. Captain Sarah Johnson stood at the command center, staring at the galaxy map. Her fingers hovered over the controls, ready to make her next move. The warship had already crippled 2 major fleets, shattered the pride of the X-Rig, and sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Now, as they moved deeper into alien territory, Sarah knew it was time for humanity to claim its place. "We're entering the Zalfar system," one of the officers reported. "Their fleet is preparing for a defensive stance. They're not wasting time anymore." Sarah nodded, her gaze never leaving the map. The Zalfar, one of the galaxy's most powerful empires, had tried to avoid engaging with the human warship, but now they were forced to take action. It was clear that they understood the danger humanity posed. The rest of the galaxy had watched the devastation caused by the human ship, and now the leaders of every major power were scrambling to react. "Send a message to the Zalfar," Sarah said calmly. "Tell them that we're not here to negotiate. They will either join us, or we will take their systems." The officer quickly relayed the message, but Sarah knew the response wouldn't be immediate. The Zalfar were proud and powerful. They wouldn't back down easily. But Sarah also knew that humanity had something the Zalfar didn't: a relentless will to dominate and a warship capable of delivering on that promise. As expected, the Zalfar refused. Their response was harsh, filled with threats and warnings. But Sarah wasn't surprised. The message had been clear from the beginning. This was no longer about diplomacy. This was about control. Within hours, the human warship had reached the Zalfar fleet. The Zalfar ships, though powerful, were no match for the speed and firepower of the human vessel. The first strike came quickly, a direct hit on one of the Zalfar flagship's engines. The explosion sent shockwaves across the fleet, and the Zalfar ships began to scatter, unable to respond effectively. "Captain, we've disabled their main fleet. They're retreating," the officer reported. Sarah didn't smile. She didn't need to. This victory was expected. The real victory had already been achieved. The galaxy was now looking at humanity differently. No longer the underdogs, humanity had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. The Zalfar, like the Exarch before them, had tried to stand in the way, but humanity had crushed them with precision and strength. "We'll move forward," Sarah said, her voice steady. "The rest of the galaxy will see what happens when you underestimate humanity. We're not here for negotiations, and we're not here for peace talks. We're here to take what's ours." The crew nodded, fully understanding what Sarah meant. Humanity wasn't just trying to survive in the galaxy. They were going to dominate it. The balance of power had shifted, and there was no going back. As the warship sailed past the wreckage of the Zalfar fleet, Sarah looked out into the vast emptiness of space. The path ahead was uncertain, but she knew one thing for sure: humanity would not be ignored any longer. The galaxy had learned the hard way that humanity was no longer weak. Now, it was time to show them just how far they would go to claim their place at the top. The stars twinkled brightly outside the human warship, but inside the command center, the atmosphere was tense. The warship had just crippled the Zalfar fleet, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Yet, Captain Sarah Johnson knew that this victory, like the ones before it, was more than just about defeating another fleet. It was about sending a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they were here to stay. "Captain, we've received another transmission from the Galactic Council," an officer said, breaking the silence. "They want to talk. They're asking for a meeting." Sarah glanced at the screen, where the message from the Council was displayed. The Galactic Council was desperate. They knew that humanity's warship had already destroyed 2 major fleets, and the balance of power was quickly tipping in humanity's favor. It wasn't about military might anymore. It was about control, and the Council wanted to regain that control before it slipped away entirely. "Tell them no," Sarah said firmly. "We've given them enough chances to listen. They had their opportunity to work with us, and they chose not to. Now they'll learn that humanity doesn't negotiate." The officer hesitated for a moment, but nodded and relayed the message. It was clear that the Council didn't understand the power that humanity held. They still thought they could sway Sarah with words and promises of peace, but she had no intention of backing down. Humanity had come to this point through sheer strength, and that strength would be the key to their future. The warship continued its journey across the galaxy, passing through star systems once thought to be beyond humanity's reach. Each system they passed was a reminder of how far humanity had come, how much they had accomplished, and how little the galaxy knew about their true potential. After several days, they reached the heart of the Galactic Council's territory. The powerful fleets of the major species were gathered in a defensive formation, ready to fight. The Council had finally mobilized its forces to deal with the human threat. "Captain, we've got company," an officer reported. "The Council's fleet is preparing for battle. They're not backing down." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. They're going to learn the same lesson as everyone else. Underestimating humanity is the biggest mistake they'll ever make." As the human warship faced off against the Galactic Council's fleets, Sarah's voice rang out across the ship. "Prepare to engage. No mercy. This is the final message. They will either accept our rule or face the consequences." The battle began with a thunderous roar as the human warship unleashed its first strike, a powerful energy blast that tore through the lead ship of the Council's fleet. The response from the Council's forces was immediate but ineffective. Their ships were large and powerful, but they lacked the precision and speed of the human warship. The Council's fleet scattered as they tried to regroup, but it was already too late. The warship moved like lightning, striking with deadly accuracy. Each blast knocked out a major ship, and within minutes, the Council's defensive forces were in disarray. Captain Sarah Johnson stood tall in the command center, watching the battle unfold on the screen. She knew that this fight wasn't just about defeating another fleet. It was about proving once and for all that humanity would no longer be an afterthought in the galaxy. As the last of the Council's ships retreated, Sarah knew the message had been sent. The galaxy had learned what it meant to challenge humanity, and now they would understand that humanity wasn't here to negotiate. They were here to rule. "Prepare the next phase," Sarah ordered. "We've shown them what we can do. Now we make sure they understand that humanity is in charge." The warship moved through the stars, its mission far from over. The galaxy would never be the same again. And humanity would lead it into a new era, one where they were the dominant force in the universe. The battle had been won. The Galactic Council's fleet had retreated, their once mighty forces shattered by the human warship's incredible power. Captain Sarah Johnson stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the galaxy map as the warship slowly drifted through the vast expanse of space. The stars around them seemed to twinkle with an almost eerie calm. But Sarah knew better. This calm was the calm before a storm that humanity had started and would finish. "We've achieved our objective, Captain," an officer reported, his voice filled with awe. "The Galactic Council has acknowledged our victory. Their fleets are retreating, and they've formally requested a ceasefire. They're asking for peace talks, but their message is clear. They accept humanity's position in the galaxy." Sarah's gaze remained fixed on the screen. Her mind was working, calculating. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The galaxy would never forget the destruction that had been brought upon them, nor would they forget the message humanity had delivered. "No peace talks," Sarah said calmly, her voice strong. "We've already made our point. Peace comes on our terms, not theirs." Her words echoed through the command center. The crew was silent for a moment, but each of them knew exactly what she meant. The warship had already done its job, showing the galaxy the raw power and resolve of humanity. Now, the galaxy would have to adjust. The Galactic Council was broken. The Exric, the Threx, and the Zolfar, all the great empires of the galaxy, had been forced to watch as their fleets crumbled under the might of humanity's warship, and now they had no choice but to accept the truth. Humanity was no longer weak. They were the new power in the galaxy. The warship continued to move through space, its engines humming softly. Sarah felt a sense of satisfaction, but there was no room for celebration. This was just the beginning. Humanity's influence was spreading, and soon it would be impossible for any species to ignore them. They would build a new order, one where humanity was in charge, not as conquerors, but as the leaders. "We've done more than just win battles," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. "We've shown the galaxy who we are. Now, it's time to rebuild, to show them that humanity isn't here to destroy. We're here to lead." Her crew nodded, fully understanding her words. The warship had been a symbol of humanity's strength, but now it would become a symbol of their leadership. The galaxy would have to learn how to live under the new order that humanity would bring. Peace, when it came, would be on humanity's terms. The ship sailed through the stars, its next destination unknown. The galaxy had been forever changed. Sarah knew that no matter where they went from here, no matter the challenges they faced, humanity would remain at the forefront of the galaxy's future. "We've earned our place," Sarah said quietly, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "And no one can take it from us." With that, the human warship continued its journey through the galaxy, unstoppable and unyielding. The new era had begun, and humanity would lead it into a future they would define.